Alrighty, we're going to get started. Pastor Will's probably somewhere. I kind of need him, but we'll go ahead and get started. So what we want to do, first things first, there should be a slide somewhere that's got my phone number on it. And if you feel more comfortable asking a question via text, you can. That's my phone number. You can text it to me. Otherwise, do not use my phone number for anything else. I'm just kidding. Most of you have it already. But yeah, if you have a question you don't want to ask in front of everybody, or maybe you want to be more anonymous, as long as it's friendly and nice, I will do my best. We'll kind of read those off as we go through. And then also, you guys are welcome just to raise your hand, and we'll do our best to get a mic to you so that you can answer or you can ask your question. So my number is up there. It'll stay up there. And I will be I'll receive those, and we'll answer those as we can. What I want to do here is, Jeff, why don't you sit in the middle? You're the guest of honor. What I want to do is just kind of start off and review. Some of you have just heard in parts or pieces, or maybe not at all, just in some different settings that we've tried to do over the last month or so, once we knew Jeff was our candidate, and just kind of review the process. Because I think we had a fairly extensive search process overall. I think I can say with confidence, with a clear conscience, that we were thorough, and that we believe we found the best candidate for our church. And so basically, I don't know exactly when it was. We posted a job on several different job boards. We did it in the GARB, in the IARBC. We did a more national search as well. And so we received several resumes. Our search committee gathered together and kind of took information from a survey that we did several months ago in our church. Also, just kind of saying, okay, we feel like for this position, we're looking for this level of experience, this level of education, these specific things, which we've shared with you all. Most of you have seen the job description, and so as we posted that, we got I don't know, 30, 40 some odd resumes, basically. Whittled that down to about 10 that we felt like these were the most qualified, these fit what we're looking for overall. And then within that 10, there was 3 very apparent tiers, I guess I would say, of we kind of had a top 3, we had a kind of a next level, and then a next level. And the Lord was gracious to us because we got one of our top 3, right? We got our number 1, I guess I should say, actually. But we never had to kind of deviate outside of that, which is great. And so when we kind of whittled that 3 down, we sent them invites for interviews with our committee, and we gathered together and got to just sit around as a committee via Zoom and meet them and talk with them. And after that process, we kind of whittled it down to 2, basically. And we sent out a pretty in-depth questionnaire, which we have actually shared with you guys this week as well, the shortened version of it. Jeff's long version was about 18 pages, so we shortened it, but we appreciated the thoroughness, and you can just tell in his preaching, and if you've had some time to meet him, he's not a guy, he's not just a yes man, he's not a guy that's just going to give you an answer that you want to hear. He's gonna go deep with you, and he's gonna be very intentional and relational with you as he does those things. And that really stuck out to us through the questionnaire, through the interview process, as we had him here in person. We brought 2 candidates in to meet with our committee in person. And ultimately, we felt like Jeff was the candidate that the Lord was leading us to. And we've gotten to know Song Mi, although she's not able to be here in person. We've gotten to know her for a little bit via Zoom, and then Pastor Will and Amy, they got to visit with them, and we also shared that audio with you guys as well, so you could get to know her a little bit. And even through that process, we asked his references, a set of 7 or 8 questions that were fairly thorough as well. And we eventually called those references and talked to them personally as well. And Pastor Will and I did that part. And all that to say, we think everything checked out. That's why he's here. And the references were overwhelmingly joyful at the opportunity that he and Song Mi and their family potentially have to come here to CrossRoad. A couple of their references were kind of like, if they were pastors. I think they were all pastors. They're like, we would hire him if we could, if our church would allow or if they had the budget to. And so that's always a good thing to hear. And we're just really excited to have Jeff. So what I want to do is I have asked Dave Hyman and Laura Park. Dave's going to go first. Just have them come up here. They're on the committee. And just have them just share with you just kind of their understanding of the process, their impressions of the process, and of Jeff, and maybe just be able to encourage you all that's somebody besides Will and I, okay? So Dave they've got the red mic there, Bob.
Yeah, so it's been fun over the time getting to know Jeff. And so when you first start down an interview process, right, it was through Zoom, and it's been really interesting. So I've gotten to know Jeff probably over half a dozen different times now, and it's been so enjoyable. And I think through our search committee process, some of the things that just stuck out to me about Jeff is just how warm, friendly, and obviously he communicates that through both his preaching, as if you guys have had a chance to meet him this week. But it was interesting to me as I sat there and reflected on the job description, just how much I was able to relate to it. So, for some of you guys know, I have, a kid in middle school, 2 kids in high school, as well as a freshman in college. And so as I related very well with everything that Jeff would talk about and stuff. And so I saw just my children reflected in what he would talk about and his passion. When he came in for his in-person interview, my wife and I, we walked out the door, and immediately we were both just joyous to talk about how we could see college kids, just even our own daughter, how we could see her relate to what his belief for the ministry would look like, and some of those things. And so we really connected with him in the ways that he presented just ministry, both to children and through high school as well as to the college age. So that's some of the things that I think we really appreciated about him, and just getting to know him. And I probably don't describe it well enough, but just Jeff's been a real blessing just to get to know over these last month, probably about.
It was fun to be a part of the search committee. This was my first experience like this at all, so it was pretty unique. I actually used to work in recruiting, so I've done a lot of interviews in my life, and nothing like this. It's very rigorous, so it was a fun thing to be a part of. So what stood out to us initially about Jeff, I think, was his experience. It really lines up with the role that we're trying to fill, both working with high schoolers, with college students, with internationals. All of that kind of plays into what we're looking for right now for our church. So that was a good first step, and then from there we saw how he applies biblical wisdom to that experience. He walked us through several scenarios, specific scenarios where he would counsel someone through sin or through questions that they have, how he's worked with parents to grow their children and to be a part of their spiritual life. So just how he uses the full counsel of God to apply that to the experience that he's had. And then from there, we also saw that he does that with love. It can be easy to say, like, don't do that, that's wrong, but to really sit with someone and live with them in that sin and help them to see through to the other side of that, and that's something that he's done as well. So then we had the opportunity to meet him in person when he came out, and like Dave said, he's very warm, very friendly. It's so easy to have a conversation with him. A couple things that stuck out to me is already he had been in Ames for maybe 24 hours, and he had a business card from someone in town that he had talked to, and he knew where they were from, how many friends they had in Ames, where they needed to be plugged in and connected. So he was already jumping into the community and meeting people in ways that I haven't even done living here for several years. So that was just a great model for me, even of how to reach out to the community. I even saw him at church. Someone walked by and kind of casually greeted him and kept walking, and I watched him kind of follow them until they stopped and had a conversation with him. So just that willingness to, like, no, you're going to talk to me. I think just that pursuit
None
of
you
people,
are safe.
that pursuit of people and that authenticity, getting more than just a fine, I'm doing fine, how are you, in response to questions. That's something that is going to stand out to youth, to parents, to college students, and just help them to be able to open up and grow with him in their spiritual life. So we're excited to have him here today.
Thank you, Okay, so Jed, are you going to help me? We'll run mics around so everybody can hear the question. Laura's taking one.
Can I answer some questions that I have pre-prepared that I think you're going to ask of me?
Yes, that's a good.
Okay.
That's where I was going to start. Do you want me to?
These are only half serious. No doubt you've heard that I'm from Los Angeles by now. Of course, if you were here for the service, you heard about that. Is Los Angeles different? Yes. Have I encountered a million questions about what's Los Angeles like? Yes. And so I have just a couple of answers for the ones that I have encountered the most here. Number one, have I ever met a movie star? Yes, but not in person. I saw Val Kilmer at it was a theater production. I saw him sitting there. And any NCIS fans here? My mom ran into Ducky at a UCLA game, and what? So, so she just turned around and he was there. She said, "It's you!" And like he hugged her, and he's nice, and he's just a wonderful guy. Next, am I a surfer? No, I do not look good in a bathing suit. Number 3, is everyone in California a vegetarian? No. In fact, I can say that that's one of the greatest misconceptions of all. I myself, in fact, was only a vegetarian for 13 years. True story. It's terrible. Number 4, do I call everyone dude? No. Sometimes I call them bro. Is California weather always nice? Also false. In fact, last week it got down to 60. I had to wear a light jacket. And is California where Christianity goes to die? And I would say far from it. The Lord is growing the kingdom in ways that you can never know unless you go there, and you will see fields that you thought to be barren sprouting with new passion and new life. I think California is probably one of the largest growing states of Christianity in the entire country, and it's a great privilege to go and be ministered to by Christians from that area. So those are my prepared questions. So
Thanks, Jeff.
is that it? Are we done?
So,
Did I hit them all?
Again, just a reminder, my number's up there. I'm getting some information getting some questions that are coming in. So I'll just start with this one. It's fairly easy, and then as you guys are thinking of them, just raise your hand, and Jed will get you a mic. Jeff, have you read a book or taken a class that still impacts you, how you think or act on a daily basis? If so, what specific book or class?
Yes. Focus on the Family has a class designed for university students that's taught by Stephen Meyer. Do any of you know who Stephen Meyer is? He's just a brilliant apologist, and he basically leads college university students, and I'm kind of like watching their audit version, that basically helps people to realize that not only is Christianity a faith, but it's an intelligent faith, and actually believing in a God who creates the universe is the most logical, rational conclusion that a person can make. And kind of watching him go through his rationalization through faith and why it's sensible to believe. Not only are they having the most brilliant minds in his institution who are out there teaching, we're talking mathematicians who teach at Cambridge, premier synthetic chemists who are among the top. He's rated amongst the top 50 minds in the world, this guy is. And so I look at that and realize that faith is a rational thing, and our students can know that, because I think that's the biggest burden that they're struggling through, is they doubt God is a moral God, and they doubt that God is not sensible to believe in because nature does not point to him. So transform my understanding of faith.
Yeah, and Pastor Will's going to kind of MC over here, call on people, and then he'll ask.
A little late to join in with that.
Sorry, yes.
Been good so far.
Pastor Will, you're invited to participate.
Yes, yes. Any questions from the audience before we go back to anything that's texted in? Craig in the back. Wait, Craig, for a second. I know you can speak loud enough, but.
Well, it does sound like you really enjoy ministering. So I'm going to ask a real personal question. What really makes you want to minister? What keeps you going day by day?
1 Corinthians chapter 9, Not that I ever would. Paul's got an interesting perspective on ministry. His whole thing is, you owe me, I have delivered the gospel to you, and therefore do I not have a right to have to support a believing wife, to supporting a believing child? Is it only me who does not have the right to work a second job to support the ministry? And he goes through why the ministry is a valuable commodity. He says that those who sow material blessings among you reap material blessings. How much more should the preacher of the gospel reap from you? But then he goes into this, and he said, but I will claim nothing of that, for when I do, and I do not claim reward from you, I have the greatest reward of all, to preach the gospel for free. And then he says, woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. This is calling, and I started to realize that I do this for free anyways. I did it for free for the first 4 years of my ministry, and now that I get paid to do it, I frequently, at least once a week, will turn to one of the associates at church and say, I can't believe I get paid to do this. This is the most amazing, well, if you're called to it, it's the most amazing job. If you're not called to it, it is suffering. It is it's definitely a calling that the Lord has called me to, and I don't know how else to say it except I love telling people the truth. I love ministering to people and sharing with them. I really tanked out bad, in my years, and I have been redeemed, and that just fills me with joy. And I believe God created me for that, for this season until eternity. So I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer, but that's how I feel. Thank you.
Others? Over here, Monica has one over here. And then Dave Knutson's going to have one over there. Okay.
I'm sorry, this is probably something that many of you are aware of, like your testimony, your wife's testimony. Could you share that in brief for those of us who maybe haven't heard it?
I will do my best to give you the short version. When I shared a little bit when I was 16. I kind of had a spiritual crisis, the existential crisis that everyone goes through. I feel valuable, but the world tells me I'm an accident. I feel that my life has meaning, but they say that when I'm dead, you're just out of existence, and that there's no purpose. Even things like objective morality and good and value, those are all just illusions, right? Because that's the materialist perspective if you take it to its ultimate conclusion. I struggled with that. And then because my parents used to drop me off at youth group when I was a kid to get me out of the house, they weren't Christian, but it was like free babysitting on Sunday morning, I thought, kind of like St. Augustine did, well, if I'm going to search for truth, where do I search for it? I'll go to church. And so when I was there, the answers got answered, and basically I started serving in our Awana program, got really jealous that all the kindergartners knew the Bible better than I did, wanted to go to Bible college, and then from there on, after I got a Bible degree, people who mentored me would later come up and say, hey, I got a question for ministry, and I think you know the answer to this, and slowly drawing me in, even though it was never my plan to be in ministry. For my wife, she grew up in South Korea, war-torn nation. She lived rural. Her whole house was made out of mud. It was one room, probably corner to corner was like you measure a TV diagonally, maybe 30 feet at most, right? And they used to go down, and her job was to go down to the creek and hunt lizards and snakes and fish for dinner for the night. And then one day, she comes to the United States. I'll let her tell that story, but she gets saved, and then she's also a level 6 black belt in Taekwondo, which means every husband loses battles, but my bruises are both emotional and physical. And so, it's true. But anyways, what happens is she's competing. Koreans are kind of funny. They mix themes. So she was in the United States competing for, it's like a Taekwondo beauty contest called Miss Taekwondo USA. And she was competing for that. She came in third place. And then she walks into the church that I'm ministering at. And she says it's love at first sight. I say that I had to talk to her for a few minutes to get to like her. But it was very quick that I knew she was for me, and it took. It's only stalking if you lose, right? So I emailed her and I showed up to the studios that she was working at, because I was interested in Taekwondo, and then she got to know me, and by God's grace, I married the most beautiful lady in the world. So, yeah.
And Song Me has a wonderful story too, just in terms of
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
length
we
of
put
it
that
and-
audio online in
yeah.
the email that went out. So you could, Dave.
I'm just curious, how do you balance your ministry stuff with your personal life?
Hard, very difficult to do. When I first started full-time ministry, I would be obsessed with sermon preparation. I would be obsessed with, this person is in trouble at home, I have to go now, even to the point to where it's like, but I need you to go get me groceries, and I'm a shut-in, right? I got to do it right now. And it actually got to the point to where my relationship with my wife and my family, it was very hard. She felt like that she just married a roommate, she told me at one time, it was a couple years ago, and I was talking to a friend of mine, one of my mentors, who was actually on the reference list, and he gave me two pieces of advice. One, you can talk to people all you want, but as soon as you get home, you are your wife's. And if you're tired, you go walking with your wife, because it's impossible to fall asleep and walk at the same time. That's what he told me. It's true. And then over COVID, I had the wonderful ability to listen to some, I don't even know who it was, but they mentioned sermon done by Wednesday, PowerPoint done by Thursday, right? And we start on Mondays, so that means for me, sermon done by Thursday, PowerPoint done by Friday, and weekends for family. And I just decided, no matter how much stuff I have to do, 6:30 I go home, and I'm done. And no matter how long I think my sermon will take me, if it's not done by Thursday night when I go home, I'm late. And it has transformed my family, because now I'm able to say, you know what? It doesn't matter how bad it is, I just got to get it out there. And I found that God still uses it. God is totally capable of defending his own word. And what I preached today, I don't know if you guys enjoyed that or not, but I preached that 2 weeks ago. I don't want to give you guys, like, this is the one that I use for candidating that I've been cultivating over 10 years and it's perfect. I just want to give you a realistic representation of what I can do in 2 or 3 days. And yeah, so it's a challenge, and I think all ministers have to go through that, but good question.
Okay, so I've got a lot of questions. There's no way we're going to get to all of them. If we don't get to yours, it's likely because he has answered it in their video testimony or through his questionnaire. So, but to tag along to that, considering the qualifications of a pastor to be able to rule his own household well, can you describe how you lead your wife and child toward Jesus?
So, what we started initially when my wife and I were first married, every night we would sit down and do 15, 20-minute Bible study. After she had our baby, that becomes kind of hard from time to time. And so what we do is we still make sure to get together. I pray with her throughout the week. And our personal independent time has turned into family devotional time. Every night we sit down with our son, we read him the Bible. He's 4. Sometimes it feels like you're reading to a wall, but what we have found is that we are able to coach each other, coach our family, and then what my wife is just really good at is just turning to me and saying, how does this reflect in my life? And it's a very intentional effort. We have to carve out time every day. It doesn't matter if we're tired. It doesn't matter if we're at grandma's house that night. You have to make sure that you are taking every day and using it for catching up with each other, making sure that we read Scripture, making sure our son is involved after he goes to bed, asking each other the higher level conversations of how does husband and wife go together. And very frequently, she's got good ideas, but she's very good at leaving the big decisions up to me. Case in point, she has never been to Ames, Iowa, and she's resting on me to make the decision to bring our family to where we believe that God is calling us. So I think that just speaks volumes for the kind of character that she is.
You're probably going to want to connect this one to what you just said as well, but so what do you see as some of the top reasons or problems that cause teens to walk away from the church? And have you been involved in any helping, I guess, or counseling
Yes.
in any situations like that?
We did a survey at our 2 churches ago where we found, I basically took the approach of what is keeping your child saved, right? That's not the right way to put it. What contributes to your child adopting a lifelong faith, right? And what the statistics are out, things like, are parents still married? Are you having an intentional communication of Bible reading with your child at least 3 times a week? Are you praying meaningfully with your child every day? Are you using the Bible as a platform to dictate how you operate your family? Are you intellectually committed to your faith? All these things I started to see, and it's like, it's parents. The parents are the ones who are working through this. And so I just took the approach with our parents of understanding that the biggest contribution to lifelong faith comes from the parents. Something like 7% of people who get saved because of pastoral ministry. And it's like 90% or 89% get saved because of the influence of family or very, very close friends. And so I approached the parents, and I just asked them, okay, we know Sunday school attendance, church attendance, midweek ministry interaction, Bible reading at home, these all play a role. And I just asked the parents, how often do you go to Sunday school? How often do you do midweek program volunteering? How often do you do Bible reading for yourself? How often do you attend church? And we found direct correlations. Parents who did not go to church did not have kids who go to church. Parents who dropped off their children had the same attendance victory as parents who did not drop off their children. It's very slim, right? Eventually you drop off your kids but don't go, kids stop going. If you are not involved in a Sunday school class yourself, good luck telling your kid that Sunday school is a valuable piece of their time. If you do not read the Bible, they will not read the Bible. If you do not serve in a ministry, they will not attend a ministry. But then we also found if you serve in a ministry, your child is 100% likely to attend. If the father goes to church, the child is 100% likely to go. If the father and mother are reading the Bible together, the children are almost 100% likely to be doing that themselves. And then it pans out. Southern Baptist Convention did a study, and they found that even though 70% of children walk away from the faith by the time they turn 16, 17, that's national. For Southern Baptist churches, we can adopt you in there. You guys are honorary Southern Baptists, I guess. If we lump that in together, for Southern Baptist churches who teach doctrine, if they do those 5 or so things, it's not that their children are 70% likely to walk away, but rather it's flipped. Children are 92% likely to adopt the same faith as their parents, and that number after COVID is climbing. And so it's a very important role that you parents play, and I believe that every pastoral ministry is a parent-equipping ministry. We minister to youth through parents. We minister to college students through mentors. Yeah.
Maybe one more, and then we can open it back up to the field here. Can you grow facial hair?
No, I'm sorry.
Because it's a requirement to be on staff.
It is. It very much is.
It's weird. I am 75% Scotch-Irish, and my grandmother is from Iran. You think I would be the hairiest guy ever? So my poor son, I married a Korean, right? So he's gonna be my mom calls them smooth dolphins. People who can't grow facial hair and body, we're smooth dolphins. So it's a fault. I can paint and tape face makeup on when I come up to preach if it's required.
All right. Other questions you guys have? Over here. Yes. Lucas.
I agree with Laura. So on Thursday, I showed up to Lighthouse, and as the first day there, Jeff already welcomed me and was like, "Hey, how's it going? Like, come get some food." So I really appreciate that. But something that I wanted to bring up or ask about was something that you were talking about on Thursday, is the concept of mentorship. And I wanted to ask why that's such an important concept to you and how that has played a big role in your life.
Who here has been mentored in their faith? Transforming or not transforming? Can you answer? transforming, right? In fact, that's one of the contributing factors that we look at what develops lifelong faith in young believers. If they were mentored for 1 year during the span of their early faith development, it plays a huge role in lifelong faith. I was mentored. It is the very reason that I'm here today. His name is Justin Prochi. He met with me every Friday night from 6:30 to 7:30, and I would just come to him and say, I read this in the Bible. I have no idea what it means. I think it's crazy. Help me out with it. And he said, let's go get tacos first. And that's the relationship. I am a firm believer in it. I was, until recently with some schedule things that changed, but I was discipling 2 guys at our church. I have never been in a situation where I have not been discipling at least 2. I am a fan of mentorship because I believe that, as the scripture says, the older men teach the younger men, and the older women should be teaching the younger women. It teaches them the temperance of faith. So.
Over here. Brian.
So Jeff, thanks for serving us this morning and spending time with us. So you joked a little bit about some of the cultural differences between where you grew up and lived in Iowa, and we all do that a little bit. But under the surface, there are real cultural differences, and I understand you have some family here, so you know a little bit about Iowa, perhaps. But perhaps describe some of those cultural differences that are a little under the surface that are real, that you've observed, and then how you would, interact with those as you come, if you'd come to this position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it's actually very profound, because I'm not only serving in a not Iowa location, but I'm also serving in a not American situation. I'm serving at a Chinese church in a town that's 70% mainland Chinese. There are 20% are from Taiwan, and the rest of the 10% are from other locations in Asia, and then a very, very small percent are white or African American or Hispanic or what have you. Very homogenous, and it's not white. I am the only white guy at our church, except for my son. We can put him as a half, right? And it's just coming to this environment. It's different because not only ethnically is it different, not only geographically is it different, but just emotionally. In the environment that I'm in, when I approach a person, it's utilitarian. How can I serve my basic social function to you? Pleasantries, titles, usefulness. Thank you very much, nice to meet you. Emotions don't enter the picture until at least 10 months, maybe longer. And I came here, I didn't want to crash your guys' church when I was here the first time, because I came early to visit family, and I don't know if you guys were entertaining the other guy, and I just wanted to let you guys have your Sunday. So I attended a church down in Ankeny. First thing that happened to me, someone looked over, made eye contact, and smiled, and I thought, what's this? This is hard, and it was very overwhelming. I think I almost cried because I haven't experienced that in a very long time. Illustration, when I was in Japan, there was this kid who wanted to give me candy, and he kept giving, and it was gross. It was like pickled seaweed stuff. And I'm like, I don't want that. So I came up with a plan. I'll tell him, you don't have to give this to me to make me like you. I like you, right? That way I wouldn't have to eat it. I told him that. He started crying. I thought I broke him. One of the adults said no one has ever told him they love him before. My culture that I'm in, love, I appreciate, I like you, are not words that are spoken. It's showed in other ways, but it's never said. And there's always a question. And coming here for the first time, visiting CrossRoad, you guys showed love. Not only was it overwhelming, but I got an insight to what I think your international students are going through. Some of them are coming from cultures that do not emote the same way that we do. And you emote in a good way, but it's something that I think, is like you say, it's challenging. My wife will have a challenge, I think. But I've met some Koreans in town, and I know that they adapt, and my wife's lived with me for 7 years, so I emote. But we've been trained to keep it under wraps for a long time. So,
other questions? Chris, you got any more?
Yeah. Okay. So a part of this role, just to maybe I can take a couple minutes to summarize again, is Jeff is primarily, we say, equivalent of 50% of your time or somewhere around there. College ministry, lighthouse, outreach, and we broke it down to another 25% being involved kind of in the pastoral oversight of youth ministry, and then another 25 some odd percent. We'll see if that actually plays out. Just his giftings, like wherever that may be, and as he gets here, we kind of work that out, and probably that'll manifest itself in just pastoral care for our church and some other things. But we've talked with Jeff about specifically our youth ministry. He's not coming to replace Keith and Tamara in middle school, or Dave or Jed in high school. He's coming just to provide them encouragement and equipping and just overseeing how, the overall trajectory, I guess, of those ministries, so that as he is getting a college student, he knows he has 3, 4, maybe 5 years, if undergrad students, right, for them to prepare them for the world. So if he says, okay, I'm getting a college student, they're a freshman, I have them for 4 years, what do we need them to be at that point to get them to where they're ready to go out, right? And so it's then looking down line to high school, to middle school, to our children's ministry, working with Michelle McKim and Keith and Tamara and Dave and Jed and so on, and just in developing that and making sure we're really thinking through those things the right way. So the question, first question, then I have another one to probably follow up here, is how do you foresee being able to connect to our youth, high school, middle school, and to the college groups, and what, are there some points of intersection that can happen there? Could you just share a little bit about that?
So I am a big fan of serving in ministries. One of the things that, this is kind of interesting because it's been a long time since I've not actually been like, okay, I'm the pastor over the ministry, I'm going to be teaching every single lesson, and now you guys have really strong volunteer base, and so it's a little bit of maybe stepping back and watching them do what they do. And I heard Keith and Tamara, you are just like brilliant with the middle school students, and Dave, you guys are just brilliant with the high school students, and I'm not here to step on toes. I am here to serve and to build you guys up. I want to make sure that usually the way I do it is every teacher is trained every quarter, every class, every teacher. You guys have been doing it since like maybe dinosaurs have been around, right? So you guys.
Children would say so.
But you guys have been doing this ministry for a long time. I don't want to suppose to train you, but I would love to suppose to build you up. And so my whole thing is I would love to be serving wherever you need a hole plugged. Love to be bringing the university students and saying, especially with our core team, you guys are the ones who will be my co-servants alongside with me, helping to mentor the high school students, helping to serve in the programs. And I don't care if it's youth or children or whatever, but Wednesday night ministry, I think, goes part and parcel with Thursday night, the college student night. I love helping our teachers develop a course trajectory. What we did in our church right now, and it doesn't mean it works 100%. There are a lot of things that if I had a chance to go back and change it, I would. But right now what we do is we have a program that takes them through the basic Sunday school material. We're thinking about plugging in 1 quarter per year is like a basic theology course, or taking them through basic disciplines of the faith course. But it's a course that's designed to get them to love Jesus, to know about Jesus. Then when they get saved, we baptize them, take them through our baptism and confirmation material, and then we take them on this course of what are the basic spiritual disciplines that you need to develop. Then we take them through overcoming sin and temptation. We take them through a quarter of that. Take them through a quarter of worldview and apologetics for youth. Take them through a quarter of evangelism training. That's a class that I get to teach every year. I love it. We have a course of taking them through 1 year through through the Bible and learning how to basically see all of the arcs and all of the themes of Scripture, memorizing the books in order, memorizing core texts associated with those books. And that takes them like 3 years to go through. And it's this discipleship phase so that by the time that they get out of it, not only do they know the Word, but they believe the Word, they can defend the Word, and they live the Word in their daily life through their sin and repentance. And so that's the goal. I'm kind of thinking that I'd like to change it and have all of our students go through that, you know. So but I love helping to plan for future so that when our kids leave, they are not sitting ducks, right? They can defend the faith, believe the faith, share the faith. So
you're fit here with the team. You've gotten to know us, right, somewhat through this process. You've been to our homes at least, and you've gotten to know Jed and Cindy and so on. How do you see yourself fitting in with us? Are you the specific question was, are you a big picture or detail type of person? Obviously, Will and I are one or the other of those. And just so how do you just see yourself kind of fitting into that mix?
I am, how do I word this without exposing my faults? I love, as you guys know, everything that I am that you guys probably see by now is I'm a big vision guy, right? I have ideas of what needs to be put in place. Getting down into the small details of how to carry that out, I trip over myself from time to time. A lot of times, I think I may drive Jed crazy by getting my PowerPoints to him like the night before or the morning of service. When I talk and I form ideas, I do the all over the place zigzag thing. It's hard to get me to just sit down and just be like, Jeff, sit down, plan, be quiet, organize. I'm not like that, but I love that you guys have people on staff who can kind of curb and correct and shepherd. I was asking him because he saw me doing my manuscript, and I'm like, I'm highlighting and writing in the margins, and I'm editing my sermon like 5 minutes before the sermon starts. So you guys can look at the manuscript. And then I asked him, like, do you just carve up your manuscript before service starts? He goes, no, Jeff, I've already have everything highlighted in different colors. It's done. And I think we get along. I like him, but I don't understand how his brain works. So,
not many people do. All right.
All right, any last questions here, over here? Stacia.
On? I just wanted to ask a question about international student ministry or ministry to internationals. And I'm not sure exactly how to phrase this, but there's a lot of things that are the same if you're reaching out with the gospel to whomever you're reaching out. But I'm just interested in knowing any particular insights or things that you think are really valuable to keep in mind as you're reaching out to internationals.
So if you want internationals to stay at this church, there is an element that, hey, I'm in another country, so I've already engaged my mind to be uncomfortable a little bit. I've already prepared that I'm just going to be in this culture that I don't quite understand 100%, or maybe a lot of times I think is backwards and weird. And then a lot of them maybe even have that missionary heart where they're very adaptive. But I think most of the students who come on campus are not coming because they're looking for that experience exclusively. A lot of them are coming for the education. And a lot of them, what they do is they enclave, and they find people from their country or from their groups that they can decompress with. And so the question is, are you in love with who they are and what they are? If you are not, if all of the entire church does not have that missionary mindset, it makes it very hard for them to feel that they can worship and feel part of the family at this church. What I have seen is that if students can come and express their culture in such a way where they say, this is what we do, this is how we do it in my home, give them an outlet to show that, and then turn you all into people who love who and what they are, it goes miles in accomplishing love and welcoming for these students. If you are able to adopt and host for really important things that nobody thinks about, holidays, dinner events, right? Things like that. They have nowhere to go. And it's not a holiday that may even be important to them, but it means everything to you. And we show them that and we welcome that, and pretty soon what ends up happening is they start to become part of the CrossRoad family. There's many ways to do this, but it involves intense action on your end. And I told you I was uncomfortable with love, right? Don't stop. Just keep. That is a command of Scripture. We transform their hearts by showing them the love of God. And it's something that you guys are good at here. We need to be doing that. So it's tough. It's case by case and culture by culture. But overall, it's a very good question, and I think that there are very real ways that you guys can really welcome them into the church. Is that the right answer, Sushma?
Put her on the spot.
No. Actually.
All right, it's 11:47. We're not trying to keep you late. But we're also not trying to cut you off totally.
But I got a plane to catch.
Yeah, she does have a plane to catch, so we need to wrap it up. Any last questions?
Let's do this one real quick then.
Yep.
Jeff, just briefly, what do you guys enjoy doing together? Personal hobbies, different things like that.
Okay, so as was shared, my wife's a big sports nut. Now she's a very pregnant sports nut. And so she usually is always involved in sports, whether it's soccer or, of course, Taekwondo. She judges competitions and helps teach at studios and those kinds of things. Really into this Korean foot volleyball sport that they do. And back home, we would get teams together at the Korean church we were at, and we would have a big event, once a year, and it was super fun. She's really into that sports ministry stuff. Now she can't do that, so she really fell in love with anybody fan of Korean dramas? Anybody?
Nobody's
You
gonna
have
admit
someone
it.
to talk to, or confess to, however you want to look at. And she's so into it. Now she's she's writing some, and she's entering them into competitions, and she's winning some. Like, she just flew out to Dallas because she won a competition. And she's she's quirky, she's funny, and that's her passion right now. She's really good at it. Myself, I really love things that I can nurture and invest 10 years of my life into for the long haul. So I am very much into bonsai trees, and I love growing them from seed, and I have some that I've had for 12 years, and when they die, it's heartbreaking, and I'm desperately trying to figure out how I can get them to Iowa. I love making foods that my wife doesn't normally eat. We make soy sauce and the Korean hot sauce and miso paste, the Japanese style, and then a really big fan of my wife making kimchi and those kinds of just home things that you have to just shove in your closet until next year. I'm really interested in getting into beekeeping, but my wife has made threats, so I'm not exactly sure how that'll work out. But that I love just cultivating something. So one of these days, if you guys call me, I have illustrations that I do where I'll bring a tree up and I'll chop it in half, and it's part of its growth. And it doesn't like that, but there are beautiful descriptions of these masters who liken it to the rearing of a child, and how you can't let it do what it wants to do, but you do what you want it to do to make it beautiful according to your vision. And so there's a lot of biblical parallels there. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for Jeff for being transparent and sharing your heart with us. And let's close in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we're grateful to you for your goodness to us. We thank you for Jeff sharing the word with us and sharing his heart with us. It's evident that you have worked in his life, given him your spirit, and given him a love for you and for others. I pray that you would just guide us all as we think and consider what you would have us to do and the direction you have us to go as a church. And we ask for that wisdom from you. In your Son's name, amen. Thank you. Have a great day.
Workers.